So in previous videos I've talked about the prospect of a Days Gone sequel, and what kind of features such a game could include. The first game sets up a sequel in a fairly direct way, but the Days Gone world is very expansive, and lends itself to an array of possible game offshoots beyond just sequels. Prequels, in-between-quels, side-quels, left-quels, right-quels, up-quels, down-quels, inside-quels, outside-quels, and spin-offs are also viable. Now, there are spoilers for Days Gone inbound for the rest of this video, but if you're watching it, you've probably already played the game. Although, just in case you haven't completed it, or played it at all yet, you've been warned. Okay, let's continue. So if you've played Days Gone, you'll know that, for Sarah, there is a large chunk of time between when she goes missing at the start of the game and when she is found again by Deacon, placing the character in prime position to occupy her own solo game. Who is Sarah? Well, she's Deacon's wife, who he gets separated from in the chaos of the Freaker outbreak at the start of Days Gone. She's a scientist who ends up working in a post-apocalyptic military camp trying to find a cure for the Freaker virus. And eventually she is reunited with Deacon when he finds her at this camp, before overthrowing the leadership there. Now let's get a bit more specific with the timeline this Sarah solo game would follow. As mentioned, at the start of Days Gone, Sarah is separated from her husband Deacon. When all the chaos hits with the start of the Freaker pandemic, Sarah is stabbed. Deacon manages to get her to a helicopter so that she can be taken away from the city and receive aid. However, after this point, he doesn't know where she ended up and has no way of trying to contact her. Much of the first game encompasses Deacon's quest to try and find her, which he eventually succeeds in doing. So to reiterate, there is a huge chunk of time in between when Deacon and Sarah are separated and when they are reunited, during which Sarah would have faced a string of trials and adventures. Her own solo game could be set during this period. It could be a sidequel, exploring the journey of Sarah after her separation from Deacon. Such a game could show what happened to her after the helicopter took her away from the city at the start of Days Gone, where she ended up, what her feelings were about finding Deacon, and what kind of efforts she may or may not have made to do so. The whole timeline of this game could lead up to the point when she ends up working for the militia camp, where Deacon is ultimately reunited with her in the first game, and it could show how she's inducted into this camp. The game would not have to end at this point. Sarah is at this military camp for a long period of time before Deacon finds her, so a significant portion of the game could be set during her time working there. What kind of gameplay would suit for this game? Well, it could have mostly similar mechanics to Days Gone, but different specific weapons and abilities. Since Deacon was formerly a soldier, his vast array of military-grade weapons and combat skills is appropriate for his character. In the post-apocalyptic world of Days Gone, a lot of people would of course have to become adept at these kind of skills and knowledge of how to use and maintain weaponry, etc. But in order to differentiate nicely from the first Days Gone, since Sarah is a scientist, the gameplay could lean into this. She could have a more limited range of guns and combat skills, but these could be substituted with the ability to craft a more versatile range of projectiles, bombs, poisons, poisonous arrows or blow darts, etc. She could also travel around on a motorbike, as not only does she have a history with them from her time with Deacon, but everyone in the Days Gone world seems to travel around on them exclusively. Again, as a differentiating factor from the first game, perhaps the option of using other vehicles could be introduced, necessitating the same level of maintenance the bike requires through mechanical repairs and refueling, etc. In the first game, the bike is your only mode of transportation, meaning you have to take care of it, making sure it's repaired when damaged, refueled, and left in accessible places so that you can reach it to make a quick escape if necessary. That last one isn't always possible, of course, but it's advisable to consider it. Although there are lots of other vehicles scattered around the environment in Days Gone, none of them can be used. You only have access to this one mode of transportation, which adds to the challenge of the game. So if this hypothetical Sarah solo game were to make any alterations to the current vehicle system from Days Gone, it would probably be best for the same level of requisite challenge and management to be maintained. This is a feature which currently sets Days Gone apart from other similar open world games, where you can use any or almost any vehicle you come across. Moving on to the kind of missions this game could feature. Of course, some of the most obvious missions which could come along fairly early in the game, perhaps comprising much of the section before Sarah joins the military camp, would be searching for Deacon, retracing the route she took after being separated from him, before tracking down radio transmission equipment to try and broadcast a message for him, following leads to locations where she suspects he could be, etc. This would be a good opportunity to introduce different environments to the first Days Gone, as it could mean you'd have to travel back into the city, which was only briefly shown in the first game. In this new game, a larger proportion of gameplay could take place in this city, as well as the classic rural environments which were so impressive in the first game. After a certain amount of time failing to trace or make contact with Deacon, Sarah could come to conclude that she will never find him, and give up her search, bringing a close to one section of the game, before she joins the military camp. After reaching this military camp, the missions could shift to finding materials and substances for use in work on a cure for the Freaker virus, and capturing Freakers to test experimental cures and treatments on. For these tasks, it would probably be appropriate for Sarah to go out into the field with a companion or group of companions from the camp, like a military escort. She is a valuable asset to the camp, so sending her out alone would be foolish when they have willing soldiers to assist. That is the whole purpose of their military endeavour after all, to wage war on the Freakers and defeat them. Sarah would possibly be alone for a lot of the earlier sections of the game discussed so far, so teaming her up like this might be a welcome change of pace after a certain number of hours of gameplay. It would be a bit like how missions in the first Days Gone fluctuated between sending Deacon out alone and teaming him up with other allies, ultimately pairing him with Sarah herself for some missions, of course. Obviously, there is an array of other types of missions that could be included, many of which could be variations of or updates on the kind of missions already featured in the first Days Gone. There are a lot of things to do in that game, so carrying some of them over for this new one, with minor alterations where appropriate, would likely be welcomed. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. What do you think? Would you play this game? Do you have any other features you'd like from it, not mentioned here? Would you prefer a different game within the Days Gone world? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and click the bell end to receive alerts of when the next video is posted. Thanks for watching. See you next time.